Recording progress.
It's the 22nd of Ellul 5785. After I spoke in Shul last Shabbat, a number of people came up to me to discuss some of the issues I raised. And one of the matters that was particularly discussed was the balance between Ahava, loving Hashem, and Yira, fearing Hashem. And people consistently commented about the fact that we seem to be emphasizing the Yira, emphasizing the fear. And maybe that's one of the challenges we have at the present time, that we focus too much on the fear rather than on the love, the positives. And that set me thinking about a Gemara that I may have discussed before, but I want to mention it again. It's a Gemara in Gittin, a very famous story about a very wealthy woman, Marta Bas Betas. She lived in Yerushalayim at the time of the destruction of the second Beit HaMikdash. And when the city was in the grip of a very severe food shortage before the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, Marta once sent her servant into the marketplace to buy some fine flour because that's what she was accustomed to using. And the servant went out to look for the flour and returned to report that there was absolutely no fine flour in the market. The only flour that they could buy was of average quality. So Marta instructed the servant to buy the average flour. The servant went out, came back again, and by the time, of course, he'd returned, the average flour was not available. That had also gone. So he came back to Marta and said, "I'm sorry, there's no average flour available. The only flour you can get this time is coarse flour." And once again, Marta instructed the servant to go and buy the coarse flour. The servant went back to the market, but this time all the coarse flour had gone, and there was only barley flour remaining. So what do we have again? A repeat of exactly the same situation. The servant goes back to Marta and says the only item available is barley flour. And she sent him back again to buy the barley flour. But again, by the time he arrived, there was nothing available. He came back, reported the situation to Marta, which time she was totally frustrated by the servant's repeated failure to buy any kind of food. So Marta decided it was now time for her to go into the market to see if she could find anything to buy. The Gemara says that as she walked through the streets, she accidentally stepped onto some animal dung, which she found so revolting that she died from shock. What's the point of the story? Why is it in the Gemara? Well, there are many different explanations. But the Gemara isn't just trying to tell us that Marta should have been more sensible in her interviewing process. She should have employed a better servant. But I think we're meant to actually learn from the servant's error. Unlike Marta's servant, I think we're meant to realize that if we can't find flour, as it were, of the highest quality in our quest for spiritual perfection, then we should actually be content with acquiring something of a lower grade, if that's what's necessary for us to survive. If we can't reach the pinnacle of perfection, we should at least endeavor to remain strong in the areas where we can achieve excellence. Throughout the world today, in virtually every educational establishment, in every home, we're taught to aspire to the maximum possible achievements. Now, that's proper. I'm not criticizing that. We should never halt our spiritual growth by saying that we've already made enough progress. There's no need for us to do anything more. No, we should always strive for further improvement. That should go without saying. But that doesn't contradict the fact that if we can't obtain white flour, it's better for us to eat coarse brown flour than to die of starvation. The notion that anyone who can't be perfect is worthless is totally and utterly incorrect. And it's a terribly warped idea. And I think that's an understanding that we've got to reach in our own lives in respect of our families and our communities. Yes, there's always room for us, for our children, for our community to grow and perfect themselves further. But nevertheless, I think we've got to make sure that we, in our lives, in our homes, in our schools, in our communities, are much more positive and nurturing. If we relate to children, adults, everyone's accomplishments with satisfaction, rather than criticizing them for what they've not yet achieved, life will be so much better. When we serve Hashem with joy, with simcha, when we feel positive about ourselves, then we will be better motivated to continue drawing closer to Hashem and to achieve our goals in the best possible fashion. And that's what we're trying to do during Ellul and Tishrei, to draw closer to Hashem. And part of the way of doing that is serving Hashem with that joy and feeling positive about ourselves. And that way we can aim for the Dveikus, the connection with Hashem, that is so important.